manual. Project number 4, How to Say It. His evaluator tonight is Mr. George Kaiser. George, would you read his objectives, please?
Certainly, AR is to select the right words and sentence structure to communicate his ideas clearly, accurately, and vividly.
They want you to get
He is to
the
use rhetorical
evaluations
devices to
too, so you
emphasize
don't
and
get the
enhance his
evaluations.
ideas, and to eliminate jargon and unnecessary words, using correct grammar.
Thank you. He is requesting 10 minutes. And a little bit about AR. He was an honorable mention for All-American. He was a former Billiken and graduated from St. Louis U. Title of his speech tonight is Reinvention of Oneself. Please help me welcome AR.
Frank A. Clark said, "If you can find a path with no obstacles, it probably doesn't lead anywhere." Good evening, fellow Toastmasters, Mr. Toastmaster. On February the 19th, I was T-boned by a drunk driver. My life was changed in an instant. I suffered 9 fractured ribs, a collapsed left lung, and my pelvis was shattered in some areas. While in the hospital, I flatlined 3 times and had to be placed in an induced coma for 10 days. 46 days thereafter, I came home. And 4 months later, I went back to work out of necessity. I couldn't stand much or sit long, and in the automobile industry, I had to do both. I found out very quickly that I couldn't do that kind of work anymore. With a mesh screen holding my pelvis together and my knee replacement, I had to come up with a new way to earn a living. I made a decision that I had to reinvent myself at the ripe old age of 54. The thought of that was overwhelming. I didn't know how, but I knew why. Friedrich Nietzsche said, "If you know the why for living, you can endure almost any how." I remember The Psychology of Success by Brian Tracy, a great life coach and motivational speaker. When I Googled his name, other motivational speakers came up as well, like Jim Rohn, Les Brown, Zig Ziglar, and Tony Robbins. These gentlemen talked about how their lives were transformed. They also talked about men like Andrew Carnegie, Napoleon Hill, and Earl Nightingale, to name a few. All these men talked about a set of principles that, if followed, would work as sure as the law of gravity. So I hitched my wagon, not knowing where I was going, but preparing for the journey. I read countless books, listened to hundreds of lectures, studied hours upon hours, taking notes, trying to incorporate everything I could into my preparation for this final destination. Vincent Lombardi said, "It's not the will to win that counts, it's the will to prepare to win that makes the difference." As I listened, read, and took notes, there were many days of dismay and I felt a disconnect. But giving up was not an option. Can you imagine what it feels like to be in pain all day, every day? That weighs on the heart and soul of any person. I had some of my most cherished life lessons while pining away trying to reinvent myself. My former wife and I separated. I was homeless for 26 months, transient, all while suffering excruciating pain. Aristotle Onassis said, it's in our darkest moments that we most focus to see the light. It's been 54 months since that life-changing event. Oftentimes, a blessing comes packaged in adversity. And in every adversity, there's a golden opportunity for growth. So I use that pain to propel myself towards greatness. I reflected on the millions of lives that the Les Browns and Brian Tracy's have inspired. And I thought humbly within myself that if these motivational speakers can inspire people to action, maybe so can I. But what do I have to offer? Why would somebody want to listen to me? What would I say? While self-actualization was taking place, I realized the many blessings that have been bestowed upon me. Those golden opportunities that some might call failures and setbacks. I have a wealth of knowledge and information on how to overcome obstacles, already paid for in full. In 2013, I joined Toastmasters International. I started feeling a little bit, or somewhat empowered or entitled, like divine providence had played a significant role in my life. I continued putting one foot before the other. Before you know it, I was reaching or heading towards a goal. Heading for a destination that is now a little less obscure. Earl Nightingale gave an excellent example, an excellent analogy. He said, if you start out to California at night, you can't see your destination. So what you do is you turn your headlights on and you drive as far as your headlights will take you until you reach your destination. So I've been preparing myself with excellence in mind, driving as far as my headlights will take me. Whitney Young said, it's better to be prepared for an opportunity and not have one than to have an opportunity and not be prepared. Benjamin Disraeli said, one secret of success in a man's life is for him to be prepared for his opportunity when it comes. Fellow Toastmasters, my intent is not to be hubris. However, I'm trying to hold myself to a higher standard that I had in my past. Anita Barton said, every day is a school day, Debbie. So I'm in school. The reinvention of oneself is not an easy undertaking. It is a lifelong, assiduous process. Excellence is the journey, not the destination. And growing slowly doesn't mean you're stagnant. Agmendino said, always do your best. What you plant now, you will harvest later. So I am sowing now in hopes of reaching an abundance of harvest later. Mr. Toastmaster.
Thank you, AR. What a compelling speech and a fascinating story.